and democracy activists. They've been accused of subversion for holding an informal vote to choose candidates for a local election in Hong Kong. Some have pleaded guilty. The United Nations has expressed its concern about the trial. Most of the defendants have already been in detention for nearly 3 years, and their guilt will be decided not by a jury, but by 3 judges hand-picked by China.
There are reports of heavy gunfire and clashes in the occupied northern West Bank city of Jenin as the Israeli army conducts a military operation in the city's refugee camp. The Palestinian news agency Wafa said troops had been stationed overnight at the entrance to the emergency department in Jenin Hospital. Christos Christou is the international president of Médecins Sans Frontières and was trapped in the hospital while the operation was underway.
It has been already 2.5 hours that we are trapped in our hospital here in Jenin, while the Israeli forces are operating in another incursion in Jenin camp. There is no way for any of the injured patients to reach the hospital, and there's no way for us to reach these people. There's nothing worse for a doctor to know that there are people there needing our care and they cannot get it.
President Biden has used his personal social media to warn that a continuation of the conflict in Gaza will only play into Hamas's ideology. Mr. Biden said that keeping down the path of terror, violence, killing and war is to give Hamas what they seek. A lawyer for the Pakistani political party, the PCI, says the former Prime Minister Imran Khan will step down as its leader due to legal hurdles. The former cricket star has been facing multiple court cases since he was ousted as Prime Minister and is currently in jail. Caroline Davis is in Islamabad.
There has been confusion throughout the course of the day. We originally heard from Imran Khan's lawyer saying that he was stepping down as chairman. Some in his party have even come out and started to say now that that is not happening. I think that really shows the confusion that the party is in at the moment because, of course, Imran Khan has not been seen or heard from directly because he's been in jail. There are no other really significant members of his party that are still out at the moment. Some are in prison, others are in hiding, others left the party altogether after there was a significant crackdown on the party earlier this year.
World News from the BBC. Sweden says it's been assured that its application to join NATO will be ratified by Turkey within weeks. It's a year and a half since Sweden formally asked for membership of the military alliance, but the process has been held up by Turkey and also by Hungary, with both so far failing to give their assent. Turkey has demanded that Sweden take tougher action against Kurdish separatists who fled there. Ukraine said it has destroyed 21 drones and several cruise missiles fired overnight by Russia. Meanwhile, the Ukrainian Defence Minister Dmytro Kuleba, who's in Brussels for a meeting of the NATO-Ukraine Council, said he'd stressed the need for the West to deliver more weapons to Ukraine.
I came to thank allies for continued support, for standing by Ukraine, and to deliver a message of the importance to ramp up significantly production of weapons, ammunition, and other military equipment across the board. We need to create a Euro-Atlantic common area of defense industries. This is the only way not only to continue helping Ukraine at sufficient level, but also to ensure security and defense capabilities of NATO countries themselves.
The Japanese Coast Guard says a US military aircraft has crashed into the sea off the country's southern coast near the island of Yakushima. 8 people are reported to have been on board the Osprey plane. The fate of the crew is not yet clear. Australia's Prime Minister has issued a formal apology for the thalidomide tragedy 60 years ago. Anthony Albanese said he was speaking on behalf of all of the people of Australia, as well as the government, in offering an unreserved and overdue apology to all those who suffered major birth defects as a result of the drug, which was used to relieve morning sickness in pregnant women. The thalidomide scandal changed the way medicines were tested and approved in Australia. You're listening to the latest world news on the BBC.
Welcome to the Forum from the BBC World Service. I'm Izzy Lawrence. I promise you, I'm not making these names up. The Sun-Ripened Warm Tomato Party. Hungarian Two-Tailed Dog Party. The Union of Conscientiously Work-Shy Elements. You Haven't Tasted the Stuff Vine Leaves Party. Not to mention numerous parties of beer lovers that have popped up in several European countries. all of these are real political parties, past and present. While some just want to mock politics and politicians, behind the other silly names is a serious agenda. A representative of at least one of these four parties was elected to the country's parliament. And I'm going to give my forum guests, and you listening, time until the end of the programme to decide which one that was. But in the meantime, I'm going to ask my guests this. If you were starting a new political party, what would your first action be as its leader? In just one sentence, please. Leonie.
Good question. I was thinking ice cream sundaes for voters. But, I asked GBT and it suggested that the members of my party sing our policies at karaoke to some 1980s tunes.
So Sundays and singing.
And karaoke.
Amazing. Paula, do you have an idea?
Oh, I would approach a society that is distrustful of politics through new means. I may open a weekly live streaming space to receive the activists and citizens' idea, questions and complaints.
Well, that beats ice cream.
In order to recover their trust in parties, in politics, I think that is key today.
Excellent. That's wonderful. So, Karina, what would you do?
Well, I think those are very good suggestions for grassroots activism and to do something online. Many parties are formed just before the election, so I would probably, focus on the campaign because it's much more fun to be a represented party than to be outside Parliament.
Wow. Okay. And Luke?
I would advocate for transnational pen pals because we'll have a better chance of seeing each other as persons first, stereotypes second.
Oh, that's lovely. And this is what forum listener Peter said he would do.
I would hope that somehow I could find some charisma. That seems to be the first thing that makes a party leader effective. And what would I do? I'd probably start a campaign called Stand Back and Think About It and have some consideration for others. Basically trying to get people to not just think about the narrow, but to actually write an essay before you decide something. Perhaps I'm naive.
Before Peter, you heard my four main guests for this forum. Leonie Huddy, Professor of Political Science at the State University of New York at Stony Brook. Paula Munoz-Chirinos, Professor of Social and Political Sciences at the Pacific University in Lima, Peru. Karina Kosciara-Pedersen, Associate Professor of Political Science at the University of Copenhagen. And forum listener Luke Louis Au, who is studying English at Nanyang Technological University in Singapore. Luke got in touch via our Facebook and will be with us throughout the programme. By now you will have worked out that today we're talking about political parties. So what kind of political parties are appropriate for the 21st century? How do we, as voters, choose between them at elections? These are some of the issues we'll be discussing later in the programme. But I want to start by following the money. Who pays for the running of political parties? Because they don't come cheap. The 2020 US election was the most expensive ever. It cost $14.4 billion US, and of that, $8 billion was spent on electing members of the US Congress. I had a quick look at the available statistics, and $8 billion is more than the total yearly government expenditure in about 100 countries. So what does all this money achieve? Is it purchasing our attention? Does it work? Leonie.
A lot of money is spent, and a lot of it is spent on advertising and fundraising. So that's part of the problem. Some of this money is spent just getting more money. But ads do reach people. We'll come back to this, but not everyone pays a lot of attention or thinks very deeply about politics. And it's trying to get eyeballs, trying to get the candidates in front of people. It certainly does work, and it does convey information about the candidates.
And what about you, Karina? Do you have any thoughts about this? What does the money achieve?
Well, since the parties are not able to get funding from their grassroots anymore through dues and membership fees, they are, getting it from other sources, and they're spending it on attaching the voters to the party again. This detachment that we have seen, that voters might shift across different parties, and particularly multi-party systems, means that parties need to make an effort to get voters. So They spend them, of course, on what we see on the advertising part, but also the messages that they can convey. So they use focus groups and other political marketing tools to decide what to say about what. So the political messages are tested to see whether they will encourage voters to vote for that party.
And Luke, do you have any thoughts about what this money is achieving?
Well, I have a slightly different opinion from the respected academics on this panel, because I think that while all this money is spent to hold voters, to get eyeballs, I think it's actually counterproductive, because if you were to focus on the United States, after the passing of the 2010 Supreme Court decision, you've had corporations abusing the system to dilute the voices from Main Street. So I think what we have is a small group of people controlling the narrative, flooding the information channels with disinformation.
But even if you're funding disinformation, it is getting more and more expensive. So we're being told political parties need more and more money to run their campaigns. But why is it that it's become so expensive? Leonie, I mean, you are based in the USA, where there is a really entrenched party system, a two-party system pretty much. I mean, do you think it's just the amount of different media that's causing the price to go up of campaigns?
Well, I want to follow up on Luke's point. He's right that one of the things that's been happening in the US is there's what we call dark money that has entered into these political campaigns. And these are people that are hard to track. They're not supposed to work for the candidate. They run these issue ads. But basically, the amount of money flooding things like television advertising puts the price up. So this is an additional complication that as more money floods the system, it becomes more expensive to buy ad time. But the other thing I'd say, one of the reasons why it's so expensive in the US is because I'm Australian. In Australia, we have compulsory voting, but in the US, there is no compulsory voting. So a lot of these ads are designed to try and energize voters to either get them to show up for the candidate or to stay at home. So we also see some nefarious demobilization ads in addition. So this, I think, adds to the complexity of spending on advertising in the US.
And Paula, how about in Peru? I mean, is it a case that parties are needing more and more money?
Yes, and I agree. There's this dark money problem going on when campaigns become more and more expensive. In Peru, it was also linked particularly with funding ads, especially in TV. And that requires more and more money because we have tons of parties. We don't have a stable party system. We have several parties that form and then die for one election, and they are not necessarily in the next election. So there's a lot of competition and many people willing to invest in them. So that is why we change also regulations of campaign financing to avoid this problem. But the problem in the base is a problem with disattached voters. So when you have that situation in which politics is very fluid, you have persons or politicians who want to be elected more than parties, and then you have voters who don't care about politics, are very angry with politics, and they don't want to hear politicians. And then campaign becomes a way to just getting voters' attentions and even buying audiences because people are very angry.
Once a party or a party coalition gets elected and forms a government, they are again dealing with lots of money. This time it's about how best to allocate public expenditure, and that's something voters rarely have much say in, which may be why so many voters today feel alienated from politics. Forum listener Todd from the United States has a suggestion to remedy it.
The concept I came up with actually probably 20, 25 years ago, but was the idea of trying to hold politicians more accountable to where budget is allocated based on voter preference, not just the feedback they get from special interests and so forth. So what I was thinking about is a process where, say, when you file your taxes every year, you could have a list of, say, 10 key categories that citizens could select. When there's discretionary budget available, they can choose which buckets they'd like that money spent in. That wouldn't be the sole decider, of how budget gets allocated, but it would be something that would be publicly available. People could see by district where people actually weigh in and where they would like their tax dollars to be spent. And then that could be a counter to some of the special interest pressure that politicians face because they don't, a lot of times we don't get visibility into what the general population would like to see money spent on.
So elected politicians would have to take more note of the public spending preferences and what they are. But just to be clear, we aren't talking about the whole of the government's budget, are we?
There's probably 90% of the budget that for military defense, roads, healthcare, various programs that literally cannot be eliminated. You can't mess with that stuff. But there is skim on the top that we could better, I think, reflect what citizens would like to see prioritized, as opposed to, if you think about the way it works right now, they get elected and we delegate authority, right? So they get to decide on their own. Well, it would be a nice gut check if there was a little chart reminding them that, hey, people in their district are fans of education, let's say, or they are really bullish on improving infrastructure for economic development, things like that.
So if the voters are made to feel more strongly that various political parties really represent their views, would it help them get involved in this kind of detailed decision making? I mean, would you welcome something like this, Luke?
I think it would be absolutely useful, because if we consider things like the climate crisis, cost of living woes, people being excluded from being a part of society, these problems strike at us in the day-to-day. So it's really just about engaging people on the issues that matter to them and being patient, because this is a slow, painstaking process, but most meaningful work is. So we just have to keep at it.
Leonie.
I study the public, and so I guess I try to be a voice of realism about what we can realistically expect from people. And the truth is, people do not pay that much attention to politics. They don't know very much. If I look at the US, for example, if we ask them, what is money spent on by the government, they are wildly off base. They have no idea what the money is spent on. For example, if you ask people, what should we cut? They'll say foreign aid. We're spending too much money on foreign aid, which is a tiny portion of the US budget. So I understand the tension. It would be great if everyone was committed to this kind of endeavor. They're going to figure it out, study it, learn it, but it isn't going to happen.
Paula?
I think that this idea will not work in many parts of the world, because actually in Latin America, many countries, and also in Africa maybe, the big bunch of the economy works informally. It's not a majority of citizens who actually pay taxes. So that precise mechanism will not necessarily work well. And we do have some experiences of, for example, participation deciding a local budget at the municipalities. But you get these other problems of having the most marginalized groups participating less because of costs. Participation also costs. And then you get people who are more organized or more vocal to participate. Or then you even have politicians, mayors or councillors who really don't listen entirely at the demands, and then it becomes a ritual space, but it doesn't really influence politics, and then you get people more angry.
Well, indeed. Forum listener Gerson from Kenya also feels that outside of election times, political parties in his country don't care about voters. But he has decided to try and pressure politicians to fulfill the promises that they make in their election manifestos. He started a website where the promises are all listed and the public can rate the elected officials according to how well they are sticking to them. So, what is his aim?
Our major aim is to inform the citizenry about how well the elected officials are working towards implementing the election promises. That's number one. And number two is about civic education, because so many people vote, but then they don't know what are the duties and mandates of these different elected officials. So we also are standing in the gap to inform the public about what are the mandates for all the elected officials. We have the president, deputy president, the governor, senator, and all those. So we are doing the two.
And you're planning to join forces with a local news organisation who'll hopefully provide concrete data on how much of their manifesto promises Kenyan politicians are actually fulfilling. But you're also asking members of the public to rate elected officials on a scale of 1 to 5. Surely that is open to abuse. I'm thinking of all the friends of the politicians who'll pile in and give them glowing reports.
I understand that there's a point of concern because the friends of the politician will always have a good rating for the politician, whether or not they are performing well. But it's my hope that as long as a good number of the citizens can visit the website and rate the politician, the views of the few friends of these elected politicians will not have much sway on the average rating for those people.
But what if you feel that you have new ideas that don't fit with what the existing parties have to offer? How about starting a new party of your own? Well, one of the newest parties here in the UK is the Women's Equality Party, co-founded in 2015 by the writer and comedian Sandy Toksvig and by the author and journalist Catherine Mayer. So, Catherine, at the beginning, did you have a good idea of what running it would entail?
No, because we co-founded the party by accident. So we literally had no plan. We had no idea what was involved. If we had known, I very much doubt we'd have done it.
Oh my goodness.
It's a bit like I'm old enough that I made the mistake of once having one of those big curly perms. And I remember when I was about halfway through having those curlers put in my hair, thinking if I'd known what was involved, I'd never have done this. And then actually when I saw the results, I'd have never done it either. Starting a party is immensely difficult, and it's immensely difficult by design because politics is a club and they're trying to keep people out. They don't want small parties. And so the level of bureaucracy is just insane. In order to register as a party, you have to jump through so many different hoops. You have to actually not only kind of define more closely what the party is, but you start needing to have rules of association. You start needing to have officers of the party. You need a bank account, but you try opening a bank account. You need to set up a company. But then you're also trying to open a bank account in a banking environment that's quite suspicious of A, people without money, and B, people involved in politics. And the combination is not a great one. So it took us ages just to find a bank that would accept us. And you have to have a party logo. Even that is a real faff. And then you have to sort of register. There are different levels of political party. So we're classed as a major political party, which means we're allowed to stand in all the different elections, but we had to get all of those elements in place
to line it all up
in order to become officially a party.
And Paula, what's it like starting a political party in Peru?
I think that creating a new party, how difficult that is, it's going to depend on where you are and what you have. So if you have or not other established or competitive parties, and the rules. So that will vary a lot from context to context. But I agree that sometimes there's a lot of bureaucracy that makes starting a new party difficult. And in some countries where you don't have competitive parties, that has even created a market of labels, party labels that are sold to candidates, in a sense, in a very bad way. And that is what happens a lot in Peru. That is the way you have some people who have the ownership of the legal franchise of a party name, and then you have willing candidates. So there's an informal way of creating parties to overcome these challenges posed by laws and bureaucracies and everything.
Wow. So you basically buy your membership. That sounds really complicated and a system which seems easy to, take advantage of by some sort of nefarious people. But on the other hand, it might be a very quick way to start up a political party if you need to. But how do we encourage more people to join political parties or start new ones? How about making the whole thing less po-faced and more fun? I mean, might that persuade more women or young people to join in? I mean, Luke, does making it less po-faced matter to you, or would you go even more doom and gloom?
I'm not sure about doom and gloom. For me, I think the way you can engage people is just about connecting with them. And for me personally, it's about focusing on history. It's about telling people that things like the 5-day work week, retirement benefits, paid family leave, etc., these were all realized through political action. So it would reinforce to people that staying engaged gives us the best chance at writing our own futures.
I mean, it doesn't sound very fun, though. I mean, I'm 5-day work week. I'm already sort of, closing my web browser right now. I don't know if I'm going to come down and...
I mean, right now, some people are talking about moving towards a 4-day work week. Ooh. So I'm just talking about precedents in the past and then seeing how we can build and move forward. So for me, it's about telling people that, hey, getting engaged has worked before. It can still work now if we put in the effort.
Well, you see, I think politics can be fun, maybe because I've been brought up on a lot of satire. And here's a thought from our listener, Peter.
Satirists could play a role. I suspect that more people learnt about US politics from Jon Stewart on The Daily Show than from some deeper political discussion programmes, important though they are. And also, we need leaders with a sense of humour who possibly don't take themselves too seriously.
Another solution might be to change the scope of how political parties operate to make them much more local. We've had listener Catherine in Taiwan send us this comment.
Current political parties are too entrenched and people are too many. And so representative democracy cannot represent anybody adequately. Democracy works better on a smaller local level in which people represent themselves, along with mediators and moderators to facilitate discussion and resolution.
Political parties come in all shapes and sizes, and their ideas are just as varied, which is not surprising given how long some of them have been around. Some people say that the origins of modern political parties date to the 18th century, and others argue that even in ancient Greece and Rome, they had them. And it's thanks to the French Revolution, or rather the French National Assembly at the time, that we think of some parties as left-wing and others as right-wing. But among all this variety of political options, how do we, as the voting public, decide how to cast our vote? Find out in the second half of this forum from the BBC World Service in a couple of minutes.
This is the BBC World Service, examining how guns and gangs shattered Sweden's peaceful reputation.
In less than a decade, Sweden has gone from having one of the lowest rates of gun violence in Europe to one of the highest.
A lot of it is linked to rows between different gangs selling drugs or gangs who split up, and it's often shoot to kill, not like it was back in my day.
I'm Maddie Savage, a journalist living and working in Stockholm.
And I am Nikwe John, a former gang member turned criminologist.
We're meeting some of the communities affected by gang crime, digging deeper into what's behind the trends, and looking at how Sweden is trying to tackle the problem.
Younger and younger children are getting drawn into this.
They're pulling triggers aged 13 and 14.
Sweden, living with guns and gangs. Tuesday at 9:30 and 20 GMT. Or listen now wherever you get your podcasts.
Still to come on the forum. How do we decide who to vote for? Is there a difference between people who are passionate about issues versus those who pick a side and stick with it? And this being the 21st century, do we still need political parties? After all, they've been around for ages. Might there be a better way to run a democracy? Rejoin me, Izzy Lawrence, and my guests for the second half of the forum after the news summary.
With the BBC News, I'm Roisin Hastie. 47 pro-democracy activists in Hong Kong potentially face life sentences under the territory's sweeping national security law in the largest such trial that is now underway. The defendants have been accused of subversion for holding an informal vote to choose candidates for a local election. 31 have pleaded guilty, but the panel of judges could take another 4 months to reach its verdict in this marathon court case. The reports of heavy clashes in the West Bank city of Jenin as the Israeli army carries out a military operation in the refugee camp. Local media says the IDF bulldozers demolished properties. The troops have been stationed overnight at the entrance to the hospital. The head of Médecins Sans Frontières said his team had been trapped for 2 hours. President Biden has used his personal social media to warn that continuing the conflict in Gaza will only play into Hamas's ideology, with more terror, killing and violence
answers
giving the
to your recruiting
organisation
questions.
what they seek. A lawyer for the party of Pakistan's former Prime Minister Imran Khan says he's to step down as party chairman because of legal hurdles. Mr. Khan has been in prison since August. Ukraine says it's destroyed 21 drones and several cruise missiles fired overnight by Russia. The missiles were shot down over the southern region of Mykolaiv, while the drones were intercepted across 7 provinces. Sweden says it's been assured that its application to join NATO will be ratified by Turkey in a matter of weeks. The process has been held up, with Turkey demanding that Sweden take tougher action against Kurdish separatists. South Korea is considering reopening a disused guard post following North Korea's decision to redeploy troops to the demilitarized zone. The lookout position was one of the first to be set up on the border after the Korean War. That's the latest BBC News.
Welcome back to the forum from the BBC World Service. I'm Izzy Lawrence and I'm talking about political parties.
Hi guys, this is your friend Uruj from SendWave. SendWave is a money transfer app that is used by people all over the world to send money to their loved ones in Africa. With SendWave, you can send money to Ghana, Nigeria, Kenya, Uganda and Tanzania. And the best part is, SendWave is absolutely commission free. Our exchange rates are excellent. You can see for yourself by checking them out on our website. So how do you use SendWave? SendWave is an app that you can download onto your phone from the App Store or Google Play Store. The app is free to download. After downloading it, just open the app and enter your name, email and phone number. That's it, you're good to go. Make sure you use the promo code SR, S for Star, R for Radio. This promo code will give you £5 free credit to send to Africa on your first transaction. Your money will be delivered to your recipient within seconds. Feel free to call me on 0749 7377 647 at any time. I'll be happy to tell you all about SendWave and help you in any way I can. Remember to use the promo code SR for £5 free credit. Medasse.
Hi everyone, it's your girl BB Clemens, the author of How to Go From Employee to Entrepreneur and the host of your weekly business show, BB Means Business, the show where we discuss everything you ever wanted to know about business but you were afraid to ask. How do I start my business? How do I raise the finance? How do I grow my business? Where am I going to find my customers? Join me every Tuesday at 1:30 p.m. on Starr Radio UK to get all the information and tips that you need to become a successful entrepreneur and become financially free. Remember, don't let life dictate to you. Rather, put your signature on life.
Are you looking for the fastest, reliable, and trustworthy door-to-door shipment company? Well, look no further. When was the last time your family received a shipment back in Ghana on time and in time? You are not sure? Well, Lamb Shippers, we pride ourselves with being the fastest, reliable, and trustworthy shippers you can use. You are assured of a prompt pickup anywhere in the UK by our personnel. They also make sure your items are well packaged to get to its destination in time. When it comes to door-to-door shipment, look no further. Well, Lamb Shippers, contact us on 07939009321 or 07498911820. Or you can visit our website www.welllamp.co.uk. You can also drop us a mail, info@welllamp@gmail.com. Well Lamp Shippers, fast, reliable, and trustworthy.
Hi there. Are you dreaming of owning your own house in Ghana? Then you will need a well-documented piece of land that is free from troubles. I highly recommend My Africa Property for any size of land that you will need. With My Africa Property, lands are available in Pram, Sopoli, Tohenia, Ogome, Dodova, Winneba, and many other locations at affordable prices. These locations are about an hour away from the airport, only 35 minutes from the motorway, 10 minutes drive from Central University College, 10 minutes drive to the beach, and close to Pram Senior High School and Ghana Men's Soccer Center of Excellence. For more details, visit our website www.myafricaproperty.com or call our UK office on 0208 123 2523. For our US and Canada offices, call us on +1 585 184 994145. You can also email us at ghana@myafricaproperty.com.
Getting onto the property ladder has never been easy until now. Join us this and every Thursday from 7 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. live on the Property Hour Show on Starr Radio UK, where we talk to mortgage brokers, property developers, estate agents, landlord, tenant, property consultants on how to invest or get into the property business and make money. You can't afford to miss this. The Property Hour Show is your best source into the property industry.
Tune in to On Point here on Starr Radio UK with Empress Regina every Monday at 5 p.m. GMT. Looking forward to your company.
Hi guys, this is your friend Uruj from SendWave. SendWave is a money transfer app that is used by people all over the world to send money to their loved ones in Africa. With SendWave, you can send money to Ghana, Nigeria, Kenya, Uganda, and Tanzania. And the best part is, SendWave is absolutely commission free. Our exchange rates are excellent. You can see for yourself by checking them out on our website. So how do you use SendWave? SendWave is an app that you can download onto your phone from the App Store or Google Play Store. The app is free to download. After downloading it, just open the app and enter your name, email, and phone number. That's it. You're good to go. Make sure you use the promo code SR. S for Star, R for Radio. This promo code will give you £5 free credit to send to Africa on your first transaction. Your money will be delivered to your recipient within seconds. Feel free to call me on 0749 7377 647 at any time. I'll be happy to tell you all about SendWave and help you in any way I can. Remember to use the promo code SR for £5 free credit. Medasse.
Broadcasting live online. Turn it up.
Body is your man. Bekutu, show them you got the cocoa set. Ladies and gentlemen, it's your boy Harry Song, aka Mr. Songs. This is the Kingmaker Baba for the girls. We're here. This is Starr Radio. Don't go nowhere. UK, London. We they call them London for home. For here, we they call them London. And I sabi you know, just have fun and stay blessed.
Hi there, this is CJ Buckman, your life coach. And whenever I'm in London, I listen to Starr Radio UK right here. But guess what? You can listen to wherever you are.
Broadcasting worldwide, online 24/7.
The best radio show.
All around the world. In your car.
At work.
At home.
On your smartphone.
This is Starr Radio UK.
Are you ready to turn it up?
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Oh, your heart is aching. Smile even though it's breaking. When there are clouds in the sky, you get by. If you smile through your fear and sorrow, smile and maybe tomorrow you find that life is still worthwhile if you just smile. Hey, this is Archie and you are listening to Starr Radio UK and the Morning Show.
This is Starr Radio. This is
UK.
Starr Radio
UK.
This is Starr Radio
UK.
Welcome.
Broadcasting worldwide, online 24/7.
Enlighten your day with Starr Radio.
Love for you runs deep. All of you,
Starr Radio.
My heart
Radio for the people, by the people.
You make the dark day fade, Jesus, and that's what makes you great.
Welcome.
You hold the world in your hands.
Okay, let me say massive good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good dawn to you, wherever you might be on planet Earth, and those of you on other planets as well. We want to salute each and every one of you and welcome you to the Wednesday edition of the morning show. Today is the 29th day of November, the year 2023, with the time now exactly 10:42 from the heart of London. This is Starr Radio UK, your favorite African and Caribbean radio station in London, and I am.
This is the morning show with Archie.
So from now till 12 o'clock, when we bring everything from archaeology to zoology, from Accra to Zanzibar, everything that's making the rounds. Yes. Keep your dial so logged on. It's a Wednesday edition of the morning show, and I'll be telling you everything that we're going to be doing today. But let me take this opportunity to say good morning to my colleague and co-presenter, Mr. Olayomi Koiki. If time permits him, he will be joining us. However, if not, yes, we'll see what happens over the weekend. My apologies, the evening or tomorrow morning as well. As I did say, in the past days, he's been busy seeing to some family issues there. Yes, very important. We are family oriented and we'll see to that. But I'm saying good morning to my able producer, Mr. Francis Guy. To Felix all the way in Aberdeen. Yes, my brother, I hope you are doing very well. Kojodi, good morning. Mr. Kofi Ali Abdul Yakin, good morning to you.
You will never change. You remain the same.
Also, I want to take this opportunity to say good morning to Bishop Adeshina, all the way in Lagos, Nigeria. And to your colleagues in that office there who listen to us religiously, I salute each and every one of you there as well. RBS office in Lagos, I salute you and I say massive good morning to you. We thank God Nigeria has not happened to us, as we say on this platform. Also, it's my pleasure to say massive good morning to Anthony Adedeji Aziz, Rachel. I hope you are doing very well. King David, good morning to you. Shamsuddin, good morning. Olakunle, good morning. And to you all, wherever you might be listening to us from, I salute you this morning. I hope that you are having a good day. So far, so good from this point.
Jesus, and that's what makes you great.
So I'm going to bring you the quote for the day, the weather forecast to follow suit, then the travel update as well. We'll go from there to have a look at some of the stories making the rounds across the globe. That is known as global trotting.
Same God now, yesterday, and forever.
Then from there, we'll continue to look at some of the stories making the rounds in Nigeria today with the updates from Nigeria. If time permits and we have Mr. Olayomi Koiki, he will be bringing you all the details that you need to know. However, if not, then he will send me in there news that is making their headlines there, and I'll put them across to you. But I promise you, he's doing well. He has to see to some family issues there, right? Good. Then after that, exactly at 11:30, the lines are open for you to add your voice to the discussions. However, before then, if you have any comments or anything, as some of you do always, you post your comments on our platform and we will be looking at it. Zizi, good morning to you as well, wherever you are. So we continue from there, and then at 12 o'clock we bring the curtains down for the end of the program, looking at all the other stories from other parts of the world, and we'll take you to the Prime Minister's question time. Okay, thank God my brother and colleague and co-presenter Mr. Olayomi Koiki is doing well, so he'll be joining us.
My heart,
and today he's going to be at the COVID inquiry.
And that's what makes
the venue for the COVID inquiry. And he'll be telling you more about what is happening there. Interesting. But yesterday, Michael Gove was questioned there. He apologized for the move of the government at the time and the fact that they didn't act promptly. So, well, Yomi is going to be there to bring you the feed from there. Okay, the updates from Nigeria from that point.
one who took
Okay, so from then, as I said, we'll be taking you to the House of Parliament for the Prime Minister's question time. So once again, welcome to the program Starr Radio UK, your favorite African and Caribbean radio station in London. And as we say on Fridays, on Wednesdays, my apologies, the fourth position will start from Presby time. So what do you think? Now the quote for today says, if you knew that your time left on earth was short, what would you do with it? Do something in that direction today. Take it that today is your last day on earth. Which people do you want to do good to? Or what would you do? Alright then, Starr Radio UK playing in the background something from Edith Morrison. Great are you. What makes you great? Great are you, Lord. Okay, so now moving on straight to the weather front as well. Let me tell you what is happening on the weather front. Those of you in London and the southeastern part of England, yes, this afternoon we'll see cloud gradually clearing for most, with bright spells developing. We're going to be remaining dry. Now after clear spells this evening and to start tonight, cloud cover will gradually increase from the south overnight, turning cloudy for most, staying dry however. Temperature is going to be 5 degrees and the lower is going to be -1. UV level is going to be low, pollution is going to be low. Sunset 15:57 and sunrise for tomorrow morning 07:40 hours. This is Starr Radio UK. This is the Wednesday edition of the morning show. Let me take you straight to the travels as well. What is happening on the travel this morning? So on your travel this morning, those of you using the underground, the Central and Elizabeth line have got minor delays, so if you can avoid them, do your best to avoid them. However, Metropolitan and Piccadilly line has got part suspension and severe delays, so avoid that one too. To the side, all the others are running good service that on underground. Also, the London Overground has part suspension, but DLR and London Tramlink are running a good service. Just bear with me. Then on the major roads in London, what have I got in stock for you? There are no exceptional delays, so you can zoom through it like no man's business. Now the Woolwich Ferry is suffering reduced service still on the river, but that aside, all the others are running a very good service there as well. Starr Radio UK. Moving on straight to the London cable car, and I can tell you good service there. Now to the final segment of the travel update, that is the National Rail. What do we have in stock? Keep your eyes on the roads, keep your eyes on the roads. Great Northern, Great Western Railway, Southwestern Railway, Southeastern, Southern, and Thameslink have all got minor delays, and also ScotRail has got special service. That aside, all the others are running a very good service there. And that is how I would say it once again. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good dawn to you, wherever you might be on planet Earth. Enjoy your comment for today, but you know what? Continue to keep these eyes on the road.
Getting onto the property ladder has never been easy until now. Join us this and every Thursday from 7 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. live on the Property Hour show on Starr Radio UK, where we talk to mortgage brokers, property developers, estate agents, landlord, tenant, property consultants on how to invest or get into the property business and make money. You can't afford to miss this. The Property Hour show is your best source into the property industry.
Welcome back to the program Starr Radio UK, your favorite African and Caribbean radio station in London, bringing the time now to 10 minutes to the top of the hour, and that takes us straight to what you know, and that is Global Trotting.
This is Starr Radio UK.
I'm bringing you some jazz this morning as well. So wherever you are, just stay tuned, don't touch the dial. Okay, as I did say earlier on, Yomi is going to be bringing us his updates from the COVID inquiry, London. But before then, let me bring you some of the updates of some of the stories making the rounds that he might be touching on. Now, under crisis, Speaker reveals Tinubu asks for a year the Tiwa's resignation letter. I will be telling you more about that. And we are 99% done. Federal government announces upgrade to international airports and gives implementation dates now. Now, Tinubu seeks National Assembly's approval of $8.6 billion and €100 million loan. An appeal court confirms or affirms Kefa Agbu as Taraba governor. Now, the federal government begins MFLS trial on alleged 1.2 billion naira procurement fraud. What did he buy? Procure, let me put it that way. Appeal court judgment. Army condemns attack on troops in Nasarawa. And INEC should be unbundled inter-party defection ban. That's what Jega is saying, but a lot more going to be coming your way from there. But let's move on. Old new Naira notes should coexist till further notice. That's what the Supreme Court ruling said this morning. So a lot more going to be coming your way, but let's move on. Yomi will be telling you more about that at the COVID Inquiry Center in London, where he's going to be reporting live from. In other stories making the rounds on the African continent as well, Burkina Faso jihadists attack in the north against the town of Djibo. The National Armed Forces of the West African nation released these images, which were broadcasted on national television, purportedly showing the soldiers fighting insurgents. Now, ECOWAS is ready to deploy elements in Sierra Leone if that unrest that took place goes on. The 13 Sierra Leone military officers are under arrest for trying to overthrow the government. And that's what the ECOWAS is saying, that they are ready to deploy the military there, or their forces there as well. A Tonga opposition alert about constitutional vacuum calls for talks with government ahead of votes. Those are some of the stories making the rounds. Yes, listen to Starr Radio UK. Moving on straight to one other story making the rounds there as well. Cardinal Jackson, the member of parliament Ningo Pram Samnate George has described as unfortunate the comments by Cardinal Peter Pia Jackson on LGBTQ. Okay, Cardinal Peter Pia Jackson has called on Ghana's parliament not to criminalize homosexuality and LGBT in the country. I'll tell you more about that also. Okay, now moving on to other parts of the world as well. 4 teenage boys drowned after their car overturned on a camping trip in North Wales last week. An inquest is told. In other stories making the rounds, hopes of Gaza truce extension as more hostages set to be freed. The Hamas captives tell of fear, squalor, and hunger. Israeli released from Gaza say they endured very little food, intimidation, no word from outside. Now, Australia gives national apology to thalidomide survivors. Prime Minister Anthony Albanese calls the birth defects scandal one of Australia's darkest medical chapters. And the former U.S. First Ladies Anna Rosalind Carter, Melania Trump, Michelle Obama, Laura Bush, and Hillary Clinton, another former U.S. First Lady. Sandy Hook families offer to settle Alex Jones' debt. Relatives of the victims are willing to accept a fraction of the nearly 1.5 billion they won in legal judgments. And a U.S. military plane carrying 6 crashes off Japan. Japanese Coast Guard say 1 person has died in the crash off Yokosuka Island in southwestern Japan. This is Starr Radio UK, the Wednesday edition of the morning show. In other stories making the rounds here in the UK, suppliers pushed up price for brands, says Watchdog. Now, baby formula is one of the areas in which prices have risen more than cost. The Watchdog is saying, well, so if you want to go there, saying, I want to get this one for my baby. Yeah, of course. Yeah, you have to pay a huge sum for that as well. Well, Chile, UK dips to -8 degrees as snow and ice forecast. Now, snow has already been falling across Scotland and the east coast of England as far south as Norfolk. Well, the Dutch edition of the Royal Book pulled over race row era. It appears the book mistakenly named a royal family member alleged to have questioned the skin color of Harry and Meghan's baby. Alright, this is a lot more going to be coming your way this morning from Starr Radio UK. So wherever you are, don't touch the dial. Starr. It is your favorite African and Caribbean radio station in London. As I did say earlier, we're going to be having Mr. Olayomi Koiki all the way from the COVID Inquiry Center, where he's going to be bringing you updates from Nigeria. But for now, sit tight and let's enjoy this music. These are here from Shadrach Johnson, but at the moment you were listening to, or you have been listening to jazz with Ora Sax. Well, I will try my best to be bringing you a lot of sax music. Those of you who like that kind of music, yeah? Okay, jazz. All right then, so now let's enjoy this tune from Shadrach Mensah. It says, Aye, glorify, or glory, giving God all the glory. Enjoy it, and I'll see you in a moment.
This is Starr Radio UK. This is Starr Radio UK. This is Starr Radio UK.
Well, when we are lost for words, what do you say? You just say aye or glory or thank you God. I mean, we are lost for words. Or you say oh. Now that is from Shadrach Mensah, giving some nice worship time. And it's all coming away from Starr Radio UK, your favorite African and Caribbean radio station in London. Bringing the time now to 2 minutes past the top of the hour. Which you have Mr. Olayomi Koiki joining us in the next few moments. But wherever you are, don't touch the dial at all. It is your favorite African and Caribbean radio station in London.
God of the light, and you shine in darkness, and you shine in darkness, you shine in darkness, so you shine in darkness, you shine in darkness, so you shine in darkness, you shine in darkness, every day, every time, you shine in darkness, you shine in darkness, so you shine in darkness. Every time I call you, you show up. You shine in darkness. Every time you show one more time. Oh, you shine. Because you are God of a light. Because you are God of a light. You shine in darkness. Shining your light. None of you here are living the same, because Jesus is right here, right now. Change your lives, turning things around. You could sing it one more time to you now.
Hi guys, this is your friend Uruj from SendWave. SendWave is a money transfer app that is used by people all over the world to send money to their loved ones in Africa. With SendWave, you can send money to Ghana, Nigeria, Kenya, Uganda, and Tanzania. And the best part is, SendWave is absolutely commission-free. Our exchange rates are excellent. You can see for yourself by checking them out on our website. So how do you use SendWave? SendWave is an app that you can download onto your phone from the App Store or Google Play Store. The app is free to download. After downloading it, just open the app and enter your name, email, and phone number. That's it. You're good to go. Make sure you use the promo code SR. S for Star, R for Radio. This promo code will give you £5 free credit to send to Africa on your first transaction. Your money will be delivered to your recipient within seconds. Feel free to call me on 0749 7377 647 at any time. I'll be happy to tell you all about SendWave and help you in any way I can. Remember to use the promo code SR for £5 free credit. Medasse.
Hi everyone, it's your girl BB Clement, the author of How to Go From Employee to Entrepreneur and the host of your weekly business show, BB Means Business, the show where we discuss everything you ever wanted to know about business but you were afraid to ask. How do I start my business? How do I raise the finance? How do I grow my business? Where am I going to find my customers? Join me every Tuesday at 1:30 p.m. on Starr Radio UK to get all the information and tips that you need to become a successful entrepreneur and become financially free. Remember, don't let life dictate to you. Rather, put your signature on life.
Everywhere you go, Afrobeat reggae dancer taking over. Everywhere you go, Afrobeat reggae dancer taking over. Yo, what's up, people? This is a boy Raskin Bobo One. Tune in every day, every night at the Starr Radio UK with the big man them Archie. When I say Orta, you say fire.
Welcome back to the program Starr Radio UK, your favorite African and Caribbean radio station in London. We should have Mr. Olayomi Koiki joining us in the next few moments. But whilst we wait for him to do so, well, some of the stories I'm going to be looking at from Nigeria, let me put that your way as well. Well, old and new Naira notes should coexist till further notice. That's what the Supreme Court is saying. And then Lagos demolition not targeted at any group, says a commissioner. And under crisis worsens, Assembly demands Aiyedatiwa's resignation. Now, what is bringing about that? More going to be coming your way. The background story and everything. Yomi is going to be telling us more about that. And Tinubu's removal of fuel subsidy causing us pains, frustration. That's what pensioners are saying. And Tinubu to borrow 8.6 billion, $100 billion and 100 million euros, seeking the Senate's approval for that loan to be taken. All right then. We talk about the fact that borrowing is good. Oh, there's nothing evil about borrowing. It all depends on what you are using it for. Whether at the end of the day, you can say, this is what we use it for, and we can account for that as well. But if not, then we have a big problem. So, let's move on straight to, whilst we're waiting for Yomi to come and look at some of the details of this story, let me bring you some of the other stories so we can make way once he comes on and will not miss out on any of the other stories making the rounds. So let's start from other parts of Africa whilst we wait for Mr. Olayomi Koiki to join in. Togo is going to be having an election pretty soon, but Togo's government on Monday, November 27, said the next legislative and regional election will take place at the latest at the end of the first quarter of 2024. This delay was criticized on Tuesday, November 28, by the coordinator of the DMP coalition of opposition parties, Bridget Kafui Jamagbo Johnson, criticizing an unrealistic timetable for genuinely free election and alerts about an institutional vacuum. We're going to be bringing you more details about that, but let me say good morning to Shamsuddin Oladipopo. He says, God bless you, Urban Nation. God bless you all, and God bless you, sir, and God bless you, Shamsuddin. All right, okay, we got Mr. Olayomi Koiki. So let's see whether we can get him through now. Oh, I can see the man braced himself properly because it's properly cold there. Let me say, Yomi, good morning.
Yeah, Mr. Archie, and I hope you can hear me loud and clear back in the studio.
Yes, loud and clear. Loud and clear. How are you? How was your travel? And how is the weather?
Well, the weather is so beautiful. It's not as cold as Canada, so we can still manage it. But it is a little bit cold for some of us that have still lived there, even over the last 2 decades. The traveling was very good. As usual, it is a very busy station back, from making my way from North London down here this morning. And I'll be telling you a little bit, I'm sure you're aware where we are. But right behind me, that is where the inquiry is going on, the COVID inquiry. I'm sure many of us around the world were affected one way or the other during that period of the COVID, as it was coming out around 2019. This is Starr Radio UK reporting right outside the COVID inquiry area that is taking place. It has been going on for some weeks now. We will be catching up with the Prime Minister, the former Prime Minister, I believe sometime next week. But for now, we are somewhere not far from Paddington, West Down in West London. It's very busy. So there will be some noise at the background. But let me come back again to you in the studio, Mr. Archie.
Well, nice to have you. And listeners, your favorite presenter who brings you everything from Niger. He's here this morning. And we hope that the family is doing well as well.
Well, the family are doing very well. It's been a very 2 days in a row, but we're grateful that everything is back to normal. It's just a normal day, but we're grateful that the family has gone to school and they're doing very well. Okay,
we thank God for that. Okay, Anthony Adedeji, massive good morning to you. Lots of love, thumbs up and heart to you as well. Okay, now let's crack on. Now, you are there at the inquiry. Now, first of all, let me ask you a question. Now, COVID didn't only happen to the UK. It did happen to other parts of the world. Has Nigeria in any way, shape or form tried to say that we're going to be having an inquiry? Because this inquiry is not finding somebody guilty or something or criminal. No. It's something that they are doing to ascertain how prepared the state was when this issue happened, so that next time, should anything of the sort happen, they know that they put things together nicely. Is there anything like that going on in Nigeria as well?
Well, I can tell you that as it is right now, there are no restriction on passengers that are traveling to Nigeria from any country when it comes to COVID. But let's go and look at what the UK government is saying, if there's any kind of update as well. Well, the last update, that was put on the UK government website says, and I quote, "Coronavirus has been removed. The COVID-19 restriction, the Nigerian Civil Aviation Authority has actually removed that." So as we speak right now today, the 29th day of the month of November on the Starr Radio UK, there is no COVID restriction in Nigeria. The question you did ask is that, whether there is any kind of inquiries going on. As I can say, there is nothing of such that I can see, and there's nothing of such that is out there to indicate that maybe a COVID inquiry would definitely be propped up by the new administration of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. But what I can tell you is that, right in the UK, like you said, it's not a criminal offense. And right today, we have the former Secretary of State for the Health and Social Care. I've been inside. I've just come out because we can't record from inside. That is why we are outside in the journalist pool where we are recording from this morning. But I can tell you that she's already been going through a lot of questions, and she will be coming again, I believe, tomorrow. But like I said, this is not a criminal offense. It's just to find out what actually took place. I think this week as well, we saw the Mayor of London, Sadiq Khan, was there as well. And we are also expecting more of those within the cabinet and those outside the cabinet that will be there as well, given what they know and what should have been done differently during the period of the COVID-19. Let us remember that thousands of people died right here in UK, as many thousand people died around the world. I got caught up, just to let you know, while I was making my way back, from Nigeria, I had, a transit, and that transit means that the country I was traveling through, even though I wasn't in that country, it was just passing through, I was still kept into what they call the COVID restriction hotels that I stayed for a couple of days before I was allowed to go home.
It was quite a very, very serious time. But looking at the way former leaders, or even some who are still ministers or secretary of state, who held power, are still being questioned. Now, do you see a trend where maybe, assuming it's in Nigeria or in Ghana, we're going to be having maybe Buhari and some of his ministers, some of them being called in, you were in there, you heard the way the questioning was going on. Do you think that they will say, hey, me, I am chief, you can't be questioning me like that. I am boss, Oga, you can't question me like that. How do you relate to that?
Well, looking at the aviation sector in Nigeria, remember that we've been told that the Nigerian air will be up and running. Many Nigerians will have the opportunity to travel. That is all lies anyway, because the new aviation minister is now telling us that, a couple of things that have been put together, a monopoly was played out, where the Ethiopian airline were almost given a 5-year tax, free to be able to operate on Nigeria. The former aviation minister told us that the airline will be up and running. They painted what they call the Nigerian air all the way from Ethiopia, driving into Nigeria, and all these means that an inquiry needs to come through. Also, we have been told that the former president, Muhammadu Buhari, also should be telling us a little bit more about what happened when Nigeria has literally gone into bankrupt. The question is, can we set up inquiries like these in the future and right now to be able to confirm to many Nigerians that the new administration will be different from the old administration? I'm not too sure whether that is going to happen anytime soon, but like I said, many Nigerians today would love to see a lot of inquiries. And the problem again is when inquiries happen, what do we take out of it? There's so many inquiries that have been done in Nigeria, but most of these inquiries have been left under the desk, and that means that nothing has been done to get it going, and the recommendation as well.
Well, listeners, it is Starr Radio UK. Do we want to lament about Africa and the way our governing system is like, but we say we are practicing democracy? Do we want to? Well, let me just leave it there like that. But let's now come to some stories making the rounds in Nigeria. Well, we remember MFL's time and Buhari sometime last year where the changes of the Naira came into being. I remember getting to, I think a year by this time, people were worried that they would not be able, because the government at the time and the CBN decided that would be the time that the old Naira notes will stop being used as a legal tender. However, the Supreme Court ruled at the time. We thought it was going to be a temporary thing, but it looks like the Supreme Court has come to say the old and new Naira notes should coexist till further notice. Yomi, until when?
Well, until nothing about. I mean, that is the Naira note. Remember you asked me if I will be able to spend these. It is still a legal tender, and that literally means that as long as I still have this Naira, I will still be able to to spend it as well. You're quite right. This morning, the Supreme Court is actually saying that the old Naira note is still a legal tender, and many Nigerians that have it can still be able to spend it. Like you said, Emefiele, decided, to change, that old Naira note to the new one. It created a lot of where many Nigerians end up buying money, and even a lot of us were concerned in terms of the color coding as well. But the Supreme Court today has now ruled that the old Naira note domination of the 200 Naira, the 500 Naira, and the 1,000 Naira continue to exist with the new note till further notice. Starr Radio UK reporting right now from the COVID inquiry in central London. I come back again to you in the studio, Mr. Archie.
Okay, now let's go straight to one of the other stories as well. Now, there have been some demolition that's going on. Yesterday, we didn't even talk about the Okadas that have been destroyed in Lagos. And we see that the government trying to destroy a lot of things. They will try to tell you that they're trying to streamline things. Maybe people are built in waterways or without the proper documentation they built and stuff like that. But some people are thinking that they are being targeted. But the commissioner says Lagos demolition is not targeted at any group. Which group thinks that they are being targeted? Yomi.
Well, the Igbos believe that, the targeting of their property is what is currently going on in Lagos State as we speak right now. That literally means that, a lot of them are concerned, but it seems that, the Lagos State Commissioner, disagree on that. And this morning, the airline says Lagos demolition is not targeting a particular group in Lagos State. The Lagos State Commissioner for Physical Planning and Urban Development, Oluyinka Olumide, has disputed claims that the ongoing demolition by the current administration of Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu is targeting the Southeasterner. According to Olumide, the demolished buildings in the state were constructed without approval from any of its agency. Some of the houses that are being demolished, the question is, how did we get to where those houses were built in the first place? It just shows the kind of corruption that goes on again and again in Nigeria, not just in Lagos State, across almost every state. If this demolition if this building has been up to year and 2 years, people have been living in there, who guarantee the planning, who gave the instruction to go ahead and build on that, knowing fully well that these are pathway for the canal that shouldn't have been built in the first place. So there's a lot of corruption that went on, but some of those people that live in these buildings are now voicing out to say it seems that it's a target, but the Lagos says, according to the demolished building in the state were constructed without any approval. We made these in the media presentation yesterday. There have been unverified claims on the social media that demolishing the people from the southeastern part of Nigeria, when the anchor asked him whether the demolished were targeting the Igbos. It is unfortunate that maybe what have of recent happened to concern those from certain part of the country, but it is not a target. It is just that those buildings were built without proper approval and planning. Starr Radio UK, I'll come back again to you in the studio, Mr. Archie.
Well, listen to Starr Radio UK. Now, interestingly, my other question there is, I'm looking at the Okada that was destroyed. I was asking, could it be used for something else? Listen, just bear with us. Could it be used for something else? And then now I'm looking at this building.
Can you hear me back in the studio?
Yes, loud and clear. And now I'm looking at these buildings.
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Yeah. I'm looking at these buildings that are also being demolished, and I'm asking that, though, well, the people didn't get the requisite documentation or approval to build it. Now, are they saying that they are built in waterways? Or because, okay, that place is a place that has been demarcated, you can build a house there, but because you didn't get a requisite documentation, you build a house there, so it needs to be demolished. Can you throw a bit of light on that for us, please?
Well, like the commissioner said, most of those buildings, were not approved. These are waterways, and you don't build on the waterways. But what has happened is, individuals have been some filling those places that have been selling it out, and many people bought into it, and those buildings has now been taken down. But it seems that more of those that bought those buildings are from the southeast, even though we know that other region has paid and bought and built houses there. The Lagos State government announced that the removal of the perimeter fence within the 2 meters of the drainage channels on the Norman Williams Awolowo Ribado roads in the Koiki State, that the Lagos State government may demolish illegal structure that are drainage system in Agungun, Ajara Convention, Oshapa, Ora Estate along Ikota River State from even next week. So more buildings will still go down. The question is, who then pay the compensation for this building that have been pulled down?
Who pays the compensation? Well, let's see. And again, if it's not built in the waterway, it's a good place, but the person didn't get the requisite documentation, then I said, don't break it down. You can confiscate it and then make good use, because there are people who are sleeping on the under bridges and stuff like that. Listen at Starr Radio UK. Now let's move on quickly. Now the Ondo crisis is worsening. I thought that I heard that Tiwa's issue had been resolved and that he could take the reins, but it looks like they're saying there's one story that I looked at. They're saying that the president is even calling for his resignation as well. What has gone on, Yomi?
Well, we talked about this last week. The governor of Ondo State, Rotimi Akeredolu, is not doing very well. He's a very, very, sick man. He needs to take care of himself, but he refused to also hand over to his deputy. We thought that last week, the House of Assembly would be able to change things around and pull what we call the Ondo State governor out of office and allow the deputy to go through. But unfortunately, the Ondo crisis continued to worsen as I speak to you this morning. And what we are even getting is that the Ondo State House of Assembly has won against violating the resolution of President Bola Tinubu's meeting with the members of the House and other stakeholders in the state. The House held its preliminary session Tuesday after the Friday meeting. At the end of the Tuesday preliminary, the Speaker of the Assembly, Mr. Olamide Oladeje, disclosed that as part of the resolution reached at the meeting with Tinubu, the Deputy Governor, Mr. Lucky Aye Datiwa, was asked to write an updated resignation letter to the President. The question is, are they trying to remove the Deputy even though the Governor himself is not doing very well?
Well, listen, Starr Radio UK. We'll be having time to tell you more about all that. 11:24 here in London with Mr. Olayomi Koiki in central London, virtually at the venue of the COVID inquiry here. And I'm Archie here in the studios where we are bringing you updates from Nigeria. But let me show you one thing. Yomi will be capturing whatever is happening there at the inquiry, and we'll try to see if our leadership as a continent will be able to learn or take a leaf from that book, what they are doing. It could be anything at all that is happening in the country. Can we say we call the leaders to order and say, let's look at that, and let's see next time if something of the sort happens, how we can actually move it or be able to overcome such stuff. But let's move on. Starr Radio UK. Now, Tinubu to borrow $8.6 billion and 100 million euros and is seeking Senate approval. Will he get it? Yomi?
Well, it seems that he will get it because it seems that the rubber stamp, senator will stamp that. But the question is, there's nothing wrong in borrowing, but it is about the use of the borrowing itself. We saw Buhari borrow so much. We are now still bankrupted because most of the borrowings are probably not channeled or not used properly, or sometimes it's squandered away, just like the aviation sector as well. You're quite right, and I'll be discussing a little bit more into that later on when we get to the studio at 1800 hours during the Niger Voices, where we talk about, this borrowing and what impact is it going to create. More Nigerians are concerned that the borrowing, as we speak right now, is not just, bringing a lot of pressure, but the question is, what will be used, when it comes to this borrowing. Tinubu will arrive, if he hasn't done that already, because I've not been following what is happening in Abuja this morning before coming to you, but Tinubu arrived at the National Assembly with what we call the 2024 budget presentation. The President got to the National Assembly at about 11:04, so that means that as we're coming live to you, the President has already arrived at the National Assembly. The Federal Executive Council, as of Monday, approved 27.5 trillion naira for the appropriation of the 2024 as well. This is increased from the 26.1 trillion earlier considered by the council. That's a staggering amount of money would that be able to be used to stabilize the economy, as we know that there's so much inflation in the country, and that is creating a lot of problems as well. Ahead of the budget presentation, Tinubu 3 weeks ago forwarded to both the chambers of the National Assembly the 2024-2026 MTF and fiscal strategy paper to the sum of 26.1 trillion naira. Star Radio UK morning show in a very beautiful weather, right opposite me at the hearing center of the COVID-19 inquiry that started some few weeks back.
Okay, listeners, Mr. Olayomi Koiki for you. Now, we'll let Yomi bring us the rest of the story that is making the round since we are already pressed with time. So, Yomi, over to you. Bring us the rest of the stories and what is happening on the social media platform as well.
We're just going to give you a quick snip because we need to go to the PMQ at about 12 noon later on. Let's go straight to it. The minister restated the federal government commitment to upgrade the police force to global standard. Many Nigerians continue to complain about the police force in the country. Even the military, yesterday talked about, the police inspector general said that it seems that the military continued to invade the police station like we talked about before. Remember that the NSAS was because of the brutality of the police that led to many Nigerians being killed and some had to leave the outskirts of the country. On those states, again, will be spending 12 billion naira annually to prevent the threat of malaria, according to the official. Again, Reps Inquiry Water Resources Ministry for spending 4 billion naira on recruitment of 100 sanitation personnel. You wonder how come you are spending 4 billion just to recruit 100 individuals. It is just part of the corruption that continues in Nigeria. EFCC received $54,000 tramadol bribe money from the custom. Let's speak on that and then take you straight to the social media at exactly 11:28 this morning. Still from the COVID inquiry behind me this morning. The tramadol was firstly declared as electrical appliances that value up to 856 million naira to conceal them, while the cash was offered to compromise the custom officer. The Tinkan Island Port Command of the Nigerian Customs Service has handed over what they call $54,000 tramadol bribe money to the EFCC. According to the report, the Custom Area Controller of Tinkan Island Port Command, Dera Imbidi, disclosed this at the handover of the money to the EFCC Zonal Commander in Lagos yesterday. Once again, we'll be talking more about that later on, the corruption system in Nigeria. What can Bola Tinubu do differently to curb corruption? Because of the time, I'm going to take us straight to what is happening on the social media. But like I said, I'll be telling you more when we go back inside. I'll be feeding back into the Star Radio UK so that we can keep up to what is happening in the COVID inquiry as well. So what I was looking at trending this morning, it seems that Airpeace is trending. Mohbad case is still trending. Remember that Mohbad was killed from what people are saying, but the inquiry has already started in Lagos State, but we'll be following that and I'll be reporting on that later on as well. Seun Kuti is trending, Kogi State is trending, but most importantly, the Supreme Court is trending. A lot is talking about the new Naira note, and let's see how Nigerians are reacting to that this morning on the social media. According to Aga Richard says, and I quote, "Na una business. What we want is a cheap food. Nothing concern us with the old or the new Naira note." And also this one said, "This is a good news," coming from Michael Oyewole. "Everyone will be at peace," coming from Balogun Rilwan. "This is good, quite interesting." So it seems that many Nigerians are pleased that the old Naira note will still be used indefinitely. Let's talk about what is also trending when it comes to Nigeria on the social media this morning. Once again, many Nigerians rely on this platform to get their message out. Let's go straight to the PMQ. The Prime Minister, Government in Exile, Simon Ekpa, 1 hour ago. The Nigerian police confirmed that the Nigerian army is a terrorist group and acted like Boko Haram. This is a man who went to the National Assembly to cry alongside the Boko Haram commander, and this is going in accordance with the headline where the military invaded the police station, killed as many of individuals of the police officer. But according to the report coming out, Nigerian army acted like Boko Haram terrorists by attacking Adamawa police headquarters. This is actually coming from the IG, the Inspector General of Police. The question I should ask our listener this morning is the Nigerian military now a Boko Haram? Star Radio UK, I'll come back again to you in the studio.
Well, that is quite an intriguing question. Is the Nigerian military part of the Boko Haram? What have they done to, get such comments coming through by listeners? That is some of the issues going on in Nigeria. This evening, exactly at 18 hours, Yomi is going to be bringing you all that you need to know, the current issues prevailing in Nigeria. Okay. I can see in the background lots of other reporters there. Do you see, are there lots of them? Are there lots of reporters on the ground at the moment?
Well, you can just have a look and tell. You can tell that it's a busy, and I think it can be busy depending on who is in there. Yes, you're right. There are foreign reporters there as well. Remember that there's still another, ongoing development in China as we speak right now. We're not too sure what is happening there, but the hospitals are getting very busy.
Yeah.
And I can tell you, yes, it is very busy. Also, a lot of journalists up there taking note and reporting back, to their different various of media platforms. And like I said, later on I'll be heading back inside, where I would also continue to monitor that for a few more hours before we head out and start making our way into the studio for the most important program, Niger Voices. What we'll be discussing is 26 trillion naira in trillion able to stabilize Nigeria. How do we curb the corruption? Can we set up inquiry and make sure that we finish those inquiries and look into it and make that into viable? We will also be discussing what we was discussing on Saturday when Professor Adebanjo Akintoye told us the way forward on the Yoruba nation, and also I'll be telling you a little bit more about the Biafra self-determination campaign as well. So for now, I'm going to report back again to you. I'm going to return back to you in the studio, where we take it from there, Mr. Archie.
Thank you very much, Mr. Olayomi Koiki. Go into the hall and then get yourself a bit warmed up, because I know that it's chilly out there. All right, so we'll see you later this evening.
Thank you so much, Mr. Archie. Bye for now.
Bye-bye. Well, listeners, that has been Mr. Olayomi Koiki bringing you updates from Nigeria, from the COVID Inquiry Center in central London, where it's all happening. But the question is, do you think anything of the sort can happen in any of the African countries where the government is being called to order? Okay, not criminal thing, but for them to come sit before a judge and a panel and tell them the truth about what went on, mistakes that were made, and lessons that could be learned out of that. Now, if we take a typical case of where they say that Nigeria has been bankrupted due to maybe the bad leadership of the former President Buhari, and the fact that Buhari's wife has been saying that, well, there were some cabal who actually hijacked the governance or the government of Buhari. Do you think that if there is an inquiry, he will be able to, he will be ready to be present there to make his presentation there, and then what will happen? What will happen? Or are our leaders untouchable? Is that what we call them? Well, whatever it is, lots more going to be coming your way, but lessons have to be learnt. But now, let's take a quick commercial break, and then we'll be back with you. Just bear with me. That man didn't sleep well, did he? So stay tuned, don't you go away.
Hi guys, this is your friend Uruj from SendWave. SendWave is a money transfer app that is used by people all over the world to send money to their loved ones in Africa. With SendWave, you can send money to Ghana, Nigeria, Kenya, Uganda, and Tanzania. And the best part is, SendWave is absolutely commission-free. Our exchange rates are excellent. You can see for yourself by checking them out on our website. So how do you use SendWave? SendWave is an app that you can download onto your phone from the App Store or Google Play Store. The app is free to download. After downloading it, just open the app and enter your name, email, and phone number. That's it. You're good to go. Make sure you use the promo code SR. S for Star, R for Radio. This promo code will give you £5 free credit to send to Africa on your first transaction. Your money will be delivered to your recipient within seconds. Feel free to call me on 0749 7377 647 at any time. I'll be happy to tell you all about SendWave and help you in any way I can. Remember to use the promo code SR for £5 free credit. Medasse.
Hi everyone, it's your girl BB Clement, the author of How to Go From Employee to Entrepreneur and the host of your weekly business show, BB Means Business, the show where we discuss everything you ever wanted to know about business but you were afraid to ask. How do I start my business? How do I raise the finance? How do I grow my business? Where am I going to find my customers? Join me every Tuesday at 1:30 p.m. on Starr Radio UK to get all the information and tips that you need to become a successful entrepreneur and become financially free. Remember, don't let life dictate to you. Rather, put your signature on life.
Are you looking for the fastest, reliable, and trustworthy door-to-door shipment company? Well, look no further. When was the last time your family received a shipment back in Ghana on time and intact? You are not sure? Well, Lamb Shippers, we pride ourselves with being the fastest, reliable, and trustworthy shippers you can use. You are assured of a prompt pickup anywhere in the UK by our personnel. They also make sure your items are well packaged to get to its destination intact. When it comes to door-to-door shipment, look no further. Well, Lamb Shippers, contact us on 07939009321 or 07498911820. Or you can visit our website www.welllamp.co.uk. You can also drop us a mail, info@welllamp@gmail.com. Well Lamp Shippers, fast, reliable, and trustworthy.
Hi there. Are you dreaming of owning your own house in Ghana? Then you will need a well-documented piece of land that is free from troubles. I highly recommend My Africa Property for any size of land that you will need. With My Africa Property, lands are available in Pram, Sopoli, Tohenia, Ogome, Dodova, Winneba, and many other locations at affordable prices. These locations are about an hour away from the airport, only 35 minutes from the motorway, 10 minutes drive from Central University College, 10 minutes drive to the beach, and close to Pram Senior High School and Ghana Men's Soccer Center of Excellence. For more details, visit our website www.myafricaproperty.com or call our UK office on 0208 123 2523. For our US and Canada offices, call us on +1 585 184 994145. You can also email us at ghana@myafricaproperty.com.
You are listening to Star Radio Morning Show.
Welcome back to the program. It is Star Radio UK, your favorite African and Caribbean radio station in London. Let me say good morning to Dizzy Man 123. How are you doing, sir? It's lovely to have you on once again. And to as many of you who are still on the various platforms, all the social media platforms that we are broadcasting on, I want to salute each and every one of you and once again say welcome to the show. All right, then, now let's crack on. Yes, sir. Because we've got just about another 21 minutes to bring the first part of the program to a close and then take you straight to the House of Parliament for the Prime Minister's question time. So let's crack on. Let me quickly take it. Now, let me say good morning also to Pastor Emmanuel Chidi as well. Well. Now, Togo's government on Monday has said, I did read that one earlier on, but for the sake of those who missed out on that, the next legislative and regional election will take place at the latest at the end of the first quarter of 2024. This delay was criticized on Tuesday, the 28th of November, by the coordinator of the DMP coalition of opposition parties, Bridget Kafui Ajamagbo Johnson, who criticized an unrealistic timetable for genuinely free election and alert about an institutional vacuum. In a quote, she said, "We are headed towards a constitutional vacuum. Our constitution requires us to hold election at the latest 30 days before the mandate of the assembly expires. Now, taking a broad view, the mandate ends at the end of December. And that means that we will have an assembly which will no longer be based on any legality. An assembly in which the ruling party holds the majority and supports the government. This means that the government itself will no longer have any legality, and Togo's problem will even be more complicated." Now, Monday's announcement set back President Faure Gnassingbé's promise to hold polls within 12 months. If an audit aimed to assess the transparency and accuracy of the electoral register was recently declared reliable, the opposition maintains that there are other sources of concerns. We consider that nothing was resolved by the electoral file audit. Now everything needs to be reviewed, starting with the conflict census. And this is why we are in the ECOWAS Court of Justice against the state. The opposition coalition coordinator has called for the renewal of the Electoral Commission's mandate and fairer constituency boundaries, among other reforms. Now, most importantly, she has asked for talks with the government to solve unresolved issues, warning of demonstrations if no consultation is organized in the run-up to the vote. In 2010, Ajamagbo Johnson became the first woman to run for president in the West African state, but withdrew her candidacy fearing fraud. Togo's head of state has been in power since 2005 after the death of his father, General Eyadema Nyasingbe, who ruled the country for 28 years. 38 years, my apology. And the son took over. That seems to be the same template that is being used in Chad. What about that? Well, let me bring you this one quickly, and then we'll just move on. We'll move on because we are pressed with time, as I did say. Interestingly, the president of Kenya, William Ruto, has a favorite outfit, the Kunda suit. But that suit has been banned in Parliament. Why? Kenya's Parliament has instituted a ban on the iconic Kawunda suit named after the late Zambian president Kenneth Kaunda within its premises. Speaker of Parliament Moses Wetangula says both Kaunda suits and traditional African attire were no longer permissible. Really? Notably, Kenyan President William Ruto frequently dons the Kaunda suit during official events, contributing to its popularity among the political elite, not only in Kenya but also in some parts of Africa. I remember this back in Ghana. I had a couple of them. Not that one, because that one has not got a color like that. The color cut is different. But this is like the one that former President Kaunda was wearing as well. Yeah. The Speaker Wetangula attributed the ban to emerging fashion trends that pose a challenge to the established parliamentary dress code. He emphasized a prescribed dress code for men, including a coat, tie, long sleeve shirt, long trousers, socks, shoes, or service uniform for women. For women, the guidelines specify business, formal, or smart casual wear with skirts and dresses below knee length and sleeveless blouses prohibited. Now, acknowledging the past tolerance of the Kaunda suit in Parliament, Wetangula emphasized the need to hold the practice to preserve the parliamentary dress code. The Kaunda suit gained recent attention on social media in Kenya due to President Ruto's frequent appearance in it during official functions. The ban has stirred mixed reaction on social media, with some questioning the prohibition of an African attire in an African parliament, where others expressed support. Interesting. And that's why the old Bob Marley, this is emancipate yourself from mental slavery. You've been enslaved. The slave masters are not there, but you still want to. Why? How? Okay, I don't know the traditional clothing of Kenya. I don't know how they look like, but I will be looking into that, and I will let you know. What they look or feel Like, not today though. Now it's gone 14 minutes to the top of the hour. So let's move on straight. Let me see. Yes, we have to move on straight to some other stories making the round. Now, when it comes to other stories making the round, the former president, John Dramani Mahama, has said that President Kufuor supervised the mayhem during the Ayawaso West Wuogon by-elections some few years ago. Now, President Kufuor has strongly criticized the actions of members of the opposition National Democratic Congress brandishing machetes around the office premises of the NDC's flag bearer John Dramani Mahama. Now, last Thursday, the youth wing of NDC stormed the cantonment office of the former president, armed and seemingly prepared for a confrontation with the pro-government political group fixing the country under the guise of a clean-up exercise. Now, the fixing the country group, led by Ernest Owusu-Bempah, had previously issued a notice to the police to picket at the former president's office over the Airbus scandal. Commenting on President Kufuor's criticism of the NDC youth wing, Mr. Mahama indicated that the sitting president never showed sympathy to citizens who died during the 2020 election. This is a bit rich coming from a president who superintended the mayhem at Ayawaso West Wuogon and has not had a word of sympathy for the families of our 8 compatriots who died from state-sponsored violence in the 2020 election. Mr. Mahama disclosed in a tweet. The former president had earlier commended the Greater Accra Youth Wing for their show of solidarity at his office with their clean-up exercise. Well, they came to do a cleanup, so they have the right to have the machetes on them, because that's what they use in weeding or clearing the weed. Okay, well, listeners, it is all coming away from Starr Radio UK. It is your favorite African and Caribbean radio station in London. One other story. After about 48 hours after Ghana Web highlighted the work of a man who refers to himself as Receipt Guy, and how he has started a savage campaign of printing old tweets of some leading members of the ruling government, including the president and his vice. One of his billboards has been taken down, providing the update with pictures and a video to show that the billboard he had mounted on the old tweet of the Vice President of Ghana, Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia, had been taken down. The ex-user questioned if Ghana is indeed running a democracy. On that particular billboard, Receipts Guy had printed out the following: the Vice President cannot respond to the 170 claims because the economy is in a total decline and the statistics don't lie, which is a tweet posted by Bawumia at 9:06 hours on December 5th, 2016. But in his update, the billboard was no longer there. With before and now photos as approved. Well, I can see the before and after photos. Is this democracy? The caption with the 2 photos said, with the one that went with another tweet with a video saying, as expected, the billboard has been taken down, followed with 3 laughing emojis. Well, the kind of democracy that we practice is different from the democracy that we see here. So here, there are also that happen, but there, you dare not, But listeners, it's all Starr Radio. Okay, 10 minutes to the end of the program, or that I'll take you to the House of Parliament for the Prime Minister's question time. So wherever you are, just stay tuned. Don't you touch the dial. But now let's come to other parts of the world. Let's look at some of the stories making the rounds this morning. Melania Trump, Michelle Obama, Laura Bush, and Hillary Clinton have honored another former U.S. First Lady, Rosalind Carter, at a memorial service. Now, former U.S. President Jimmy Carter, 99, was also at Tuesday's ceremony for his late wife. Mrs. Carter's funeral and burial will take place today in her hometown, Plains, Georgia. Jimmy Carter, 99, bids farewell to wife Rosalind, and we say may her soul rest in perfect peace. I had back in the day when we went to that was when I was preparing to go to secondary school. Getting ready to write a common entrance, and there was in the Ghana in Accra, Tesano, where the Ghana police school is. So that's why I went to school. I went to the police depot, and then there was this wonderful man. He had his dreads. I think he suffered a bit of some mental ailment at the time, but he had recovered out of it. And anytime he sees you, he says, Jimmy Carter. When he says Jimmy Carter, then he responds, the best president of America. So I remember him. I've forgotten his name that we were calling him, but the moment we get to his estate, we shout that, and he'll come out to say, the best president of America. Well, he's lost a wife, and she is going to be buried today. But listeners, it is All Star Radio UK, your favorite African and Caribbean radio station in London. In other stories making the rounds as well, a U.S. military plane with 6 people on board has crashed off Yakushima Island in southwestern Japan. Japan's Coast Guard said one person had been found dead near the crash site. Japan's NHK broadcaster said the CV-22 Osprey hybrid plane had been trying to land at Yakushima Airport with one engine on fire. There is no U.S. comment yet. Ospreys, which can function as a helicopter and a turboprop aircraft, have been involved in a string of fatal crashes over the years. The aircraft that went down on Wednesday was thought to be heading from the Iwakuni base in the western Yamaguchi prefecture to Kadena base in the country's southwesternmost Okinawa region. Japan's defense ministry said the aircraft disappeared from the radar at 14:40 hours, that's local time, 05:40 GMT on Wednesday. The Coast Guard received a distress call 5 minutes later saying the plane had crashed. It then sent boats and 2 helicopters to the scene at 16 hours. The helicopters spotted what looked like part of a plane and a life raft, a spokesperson said. Earlier reports said 8 people were on board the aircraft, but the number was later revised down by the Coast Guard. It posted photos of what is believed to be the plane's wreckage of Yakushima. An eyewitness told local TV that the plane had been circling before exploding and crashing into the sea on Wednesday. A sad one there. May I say, may their souls rest in perfect peace. Now moving on straight here in the UK, before we bring the program to a close. The 4 teenagers who drowned and died in the crash, the bodies of Hugo Morris, Harvey Owen, Will Fetch, and Javon Hurst were found in a crash car. Well, that's an inquiry that's going to be opened for that crash, and lessons to be learned from there. Also, Sir Elton addresses MPs after HIV trial success. The pop legend steps up his campaign to eradicate HIV as a new NHS testing scheme shows promising results. Now, Dutch edition of Royal Book pulled over race row era is some of the stories making the rounds there as well. And as I did say, or as with Yomi did report this morning from the COVID hearing in central London, evidence on COVID face coverings is still uncertain, Harris tells inquiry. Well, But somehow we all bought into it and we're using that, weren't we? But it's all coming away from Star Radio. Okay, I'll be taking you to the House of Parliament in next few moments. So wherever you are, don't touch the dial. Star, your favorite African and Caribbean radio station in London. Okay, let's take this final story and then we move on. Now, makers of some popular food brands have raised prices by more than their cost over the past 2 years, according to the UK's competition watchdog. This has helped push up the prices of things like baby formula, baked beans, pet food, and milk. The Competition and Market Authority said about 3/4 of branded suppliers have been making more profit on individual products, but food firms said they had done all they could to absorb higher costs. The findings are part of an analysis of pricing in 10 categories, which also includes poultry, mayonnaise, baked beans, chilled desserts, ready meals, and lemonade. High food price inflation has mainly been driven by rising energy and fertilizer costs, the CMA said. But makers of most branded food items in the 10 categories have been putting prices up by more than their costs, and in doing so have contributed to higher food price inflation, it added. As a result, shoppers have increasingly turned to own label products, meaning branded products have lost market share and so have actually been making less money overall. Yes, I remember the other time I went to the shop, I saw some cereal and I thought, let me go check and try that and see. I brought it home and it was like same. And I said, why do I pay what about 300% what I'm paying for something that I'll get? Well, so listeners, this is where I bring the first part of the program to an end. I'm going to be taking you to the House of Parliament, but for now, let's take this music. Yes, a bit of jazz there. This afternoon, I feel jazzy. And then I will be taking you to the House of Parliament. Stay tuned. Don't you go away.
Live to the House of Commons and Prime Minister's Question Time. But first, let's bring in our political editor, Beth Rigby, who joins us now. And Beth, been quite an interesting week in politics. Yesterday dominated by the Elgin Marbles, but of course also those migration figures. What do you expect is going to come up today?
Well, either or. I mean, there's two problems there, isn't there, that Keir Starmer could lay into the Prime Minister over. On the matter of the Elgin Marbles, and the Prime Minister's decision not to meet his Greek counterpart because he had raised these in the issue of where the Elgin marble should belong in an interview with the BBC. I mean, that has triggered a diplomatic row, and Labour have been very keen to point out that this is not the leadership a Prime Minister should show, and have said that it's petulant in off-record comments to me. But there is a much more substantive issue this week, which has kind of been knocked off the headlines because of the row over the Elgin marbles on those record migration numbers from last week and the huge pressure the Prime Minister is under. You'll remember in 2019 the Conservative Party manifesto promised to drive net migration down over this Parliament below the 239,000 mark. It's now at a record, I think it was 745,000 net migration. And he has a sulphurous backbench, I would say, of a lot of agitation about not just stopping illegal migration and stopping the boats, but also on the matter of legal migration, with huge Conservative splits on what the policy should be, and a Prime Minister holed up in Downing Street, taking all these different soundings and trying to work out a policy that will inevitably create very visible rifts on his backbenchers. So there's two areas there that Keir Starmer can go down.
And in terms of migration, Beth, as you say, there's been so much focus from the government on the small boats, on illegal migration, but it is legal migration which makes up the bulk of it. And students and those coming across to work in the NHS, the biggest bulk.
Yeah, exactly. And the issue for Rishi Sunak, if you think about the Brexit vote and getting immigration under control, it's now 3 times the level it was when people voted to leave the European Union.
Here's the Prime
Your
Minister.
favourite Afro-Caribbean radio station in the UK.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Last year, Scotland exported 19 trillion watt-hours of electricity worth £4 billion to the UK grid. Yet not only do Scottish generators pay the highest grid connection charges in Europe, Scots pay amongst the highest standing charges, whilst London is by far the lowest. Our heating and lighting is switched on a lot earlier and off a lot later than the south of England. So should Scottish households be forced to shiver in the dark this winter to subsidise the richest part of the UK?
Yeah. Prime Minister. Well, Mr. Speaker, as the honourable member will know, standing charges are a matter for Ofgem, the independent regulator. Asking for views about standing charges, and he'll know, because of geographic factors, the UK government already provides an annual cross-subsidy worth £60 to a typical household in Scotland. But on top of that, we are providing considerable support to everyone across the UK with their energy bills this year.
Smith. Mr. Speaker, Abigail Moore Eden is 4 years old. Released from Hamas captivity last weekend, Abigail is an orphan after her parents were brutally executed in front of her during Hamas's rampage on the 7th of October. To secure the freedom of Abigail and some other hostages, Israel is taking a huge risk, releasing convicted terrorists, including would-be suicide bomber Isra Jabis, imprisoned for detonating a gas cylinder in her car in 2015. Hamas also seem to have broken the ceasefire, activating 3 explosive devices. So what steps is my right honourable friend the Prime Minister taking to continue his welcome, steadfast support for Israel in its fight not only against Hamas, but other Iran-backed terror groups?
Prime Minister. Well, can I thank my honourable friend for raising such an important issue in my house, and my thoughts, and I know the thoughts of the whole House will be with Abigail. As I've said before, we support Israel's right to defend itself, to go after Hamas and to free hostages, to deter further incursions and to strengthen its security for the long term. We welcome, though, the extension to the agreement to pause fighting, increase humanitarian aid and release further hostages. Negotiations are ongoing and highly sensitive, but this has been a welcome first positive step. We will continue also to hold Iran to account, Mr. Speaker, for any further escalation from these groups, as well as continuing to work with partners to disrupt and deter Iran's destabilising activities in the Middle East.
I now call on the Leader of the Opposition, Keir Starmer.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
In an effort to hide from his failures, the Prime Minister spent this week arguing about an ancient relic that only a tiny minority of the British public have any interest in. Mr. Speaker, that's enough about the Tory party. In 2019, they all promised the country that they would control immigration, numbers will come down, the British people will be in control. How's it going?
Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, let me be crystal clear. The levels of migration are far too high, and I'm determined to bring them back down to sustainable levels. That's why we've asked the Migration Advisory Council to review certain elements of the system. We're reviewing those findings and we'll bring forward next steps. But earlier this year, we announced the toughest action ever taken to reduce legal migration. The effects of that action are yet to be felt, that will impact 150,000 student dependents, and forecasts show that migration is likely to drop as a result. But all we've heard up until this moment from the Honourable Gentleman on this topic is a secret backroom deal with the EU that would see an additional 100,000 migrants here every year.
Mr. Speaker, never mind the British Museum, it's the Prime Minister who's obviously lost his marbles. Mr. Speaker, the Greek Prime Minister came to London to meet him, a fellow NATO member, an economic ally, one of our most important partners in tackling illegal immigration. But instead of using that meeting to discuss those serious issues, he tried to humiliate him and cancelled at the last minute. Why such small politics, Prime Minister?
Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, of course, we're always happy to discuss important topics of substance with our allies, like tackling illegal migration or indeed strengthening our security. But when it was clear that the purpose of a meeting was not to discuss substantive issues for the future, but rather to grandstand and relitigate issues of the past, it wasn't appropriate. But furthermore, when specific commitments and specific assurances on that topic were made to this country and then were broken, it may seem alien to him, but my view is when people make commitments, they should keep them.
Mr. Speaker, I discussed with the Greek Prime Minister the economy, security, immigration. I also told him we wouldn't change the law regarding the marbles. It's not that difficult, Prime Minister. The reality is simple. He has no plan on boat crossings, and migration is at a record high. His policy is that companies can pay workers from abroad 20% less than British workers. That has contributed to those record high immigration levels, hasn't it?
Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, he talks about the boat crossings. He's failed to notice illegal boat crossings are down by a third this year, Mr. Speaker, thanks to every one of the actions that we've taken that he opposed every single time they were raised. But look, Mr. Speaker, no one will be surprised that he's backing an EU country over Britain. Just this last week he was asked which song best sums up the Labour Party. What did he come up with? Well, Mr. Speaker, he showed his true colours and chose Ode to Joy, literally the anthem of the European Union. And he will back Brussels over Britain every single time.
So let me get this straight. The Prime Minister is now saying that meeting the Prime Minister of Greece is somehow supporting the EU instead of discussing serious issues. He's just got dug further into that hole that he's made for himself. And rather than deal with the facts, he's prosecuting his one-man war on reality. And that reality is stuck. Under this government, a bricklayer from overseas can be paid £2,500 less than somebody who's already here. A plasterer, £3,000 less. An engineer, £6,000 less. The list goes on. It's absurd. Labour would scrap his perverse wage-cutting policy. Why won't he?
Mr. Speaker, as I said, we have taken significant measures and will bring forward more. And indeed, as the ONS themselves said, more recent estimates indicate a slowing of immigration as a result of the things that we're doing. But I am surprised, Mr. Speaker, to hear him now taking this new position, because I've got a quote here from a pushy young shadow immigration minister who said, and I directly quote this person, he told this House that limits on skilled migrants are, and I quote, a form of economic vandalism. Who could possibly have taken such a bizarre position to only then U-turn? It will come as no surprise to anybody that it was him.
Mr. Speaker, there's only one party that's lost control of the borders, and they're sitting right there. And this is a government not just in turmoil, in open revolt. The immigration minister thinks the Prime Minister is failing because apparently nobody will listen to his secret plan. The former Home Secretary thinks he's failing because of his magical thinking. The current Home Secretary thinks he's failing. He even took time out of his busy schedule insulting people in the North East to admit he agrees with Labour. The Prime Minister seems to be the only person on the Tory benches without his own personal immigration plan. Clearly, his own side don't have any faith in him. Why should the public?
Mr. Speaker, it's really a bit rich to hear about this from someone who described all immigration law as racist, who literally said it was a mistake to control immigration. We have taken steps and we will take further steps, which is why recent estimates of immigration show that it's slowing. It's why next year the immigration health surcharge will increase by over 2/3. It's why immigration fees are going up by up to 35%. But Mr. Speaker, one of his own members of his front bench said that having a target isn't sensible. Right? It's no surprise, Mr. Speaker, to have people like this, because this is the person, Mr. Speaker, while we're taking all these measures that he opposed, this is the person who stood on a platform and promised to defend free movement.
On their watch, migration has just trebled and is giving the House a lecture about targets. He's lost in La La Land. There can be few experiences more haunting for the members opposite than hearing this Prime Minister claim that he's going to sort out a problem. First, he said he'd get the NHS waiting list down. They went up. Unabashed by that, he said he'd get control of immigration. It's gone up. Following that experience, he turned his hand to bringing taxes down. And, would you believe it, the tax burden is now going to be higher than ever. It is ironic that he's suddenly taken such a keen interest in Greek culture when he's clearly become the man with the reverse Midas touch. Everything he touches turns to, maybe the Home Secretary could help me out here. Rubbish. So will the Prime Minister do the country a favour? We'll have to check the tape again, Mr. Speaker, I think. So will the Prime Minister do the country a favour, warn us what he's planning next, so we can prepare ourselves for the disaster that will inevitably follow?
Mr. Speaker, at the beginning of the year we said, Mr. Speaker...
Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, at the beginning of the year we said we would halve inflation, and this government has delivered, easing the burden on the cost of living for families everywhere. But we know his plans, Mr. Speaker, all the way through that. What did he do? Back inflationary pay rises. He talked about welfare, no controls for welfare, and borrowing £28 billion a year that would just make the situation worse. He mentioned tax, Mr. Speaker. Just this past week we've delivered the biggest tax cuts since the 1980s for millions of people and businesses, increased pensions and benefits, and this week secured £30 billion of new investment for this country. So he can keep trying, Mr. Speaker, to talk...
Britain isn't listening. Can I just say to the Shadow Foreign Secretary... order! Just a little bit quieter, please. I want to hear. Right, from Manchester.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The government has rightly responded to the shocking and unacceptable rise in anti-Semitism, and we saw extra funding in the autumn statement. I note that 44% of religiously aggravated motivated offences last year were against the Muslim community. Yet there was no funding in the autumn statement to deal with Islamophobia. The government's independent advisor role for Islamophobia has been left vacant for over 1 year. The Prime Minister knows we discussed these matters over a year ago, yet no action has taken place. Prime Minister, enough is enough with regards to tackling anti-Muslim hatred. Will the government now finally take action?
Mr. Speaker, we won't tolerate anti-Muslim hatred in any form and expect it to be dealt with wherever it occurs. I actually recently met Tal Mama, a service that provides support to victims of anti-Muslim hatred, who we have in fact supported with over £6 million of funding since its inception, and we're in regular dialogue with them. We have also, Mr. Speaker, doubled the funding for protective security measures through the Protective Security for Mosque scheme, and will continue to do everything that we can to keep our Muslim community safe.
Leader Stephen Flynn.
Mr. Speaker, in good news for kids this morning, it was snowing in Aberdeen, and when they looked out of the kitchen window, they would have been filled with delight. But for their parents, many of them who looked out the kitchen window this morning would have been filled with dread. Dread knowing that they simply can't afford to pay their energy bills. So in that context, can I ask the Prime Minister, does he regret offering no financial mechanism whatsoever towards families this winter?
Minister.
Mr. Speaker, it's simply not right to say that there isn't support for families this winter. There's been considerable support this year for energy bills, and this winter pensioner households, for example, will receive up to £300 alongside their winter fuel payment, because they're some of the most vulnerable households, and it's right that they get that support at a difficult time.
Stephen Flynn. Mr. Speaker, I appreciate it's difficult for the Prime Minister to empathise when he quite clearly can't understand. But to be clear to both him and indeed the whole House, this isn't a matter of energy production. Scotland produces 6 times more gas than we consume, and around 2/3 of our electricity already comes from renewable resources. This is a consequence of decades of failed energy policy here in Westminster. Now, those of us on these benches, we believe that Scotland's energy wealth and our energy resource should benefit the people of Scotland. Why doesn't he?
Mr. Speaker, the entire energy grid infrastructure in this country is integrated, which brings benefits to people in every part of our United Kingdom. But when it comes to supporting people with energy bills, Mr. Speaker, that's why earlier this year we increased benefits at the highest rate on record. It's why we've provided cost of living payments worth £900 on top of regular support. And it was right, Mr. Speaker, not to wait till the last moment to give people that support. We gave it to them earlier this year so they would have the security they need going into winter. And as I said, on top of the money for pensioners, and when there are cold snaps, we have cold weather payments that kick in, and the Warmth Homes discount providing an extra £150 to the most vulnerable households. All of that is the most considerable action taken by any government to help people with their energy bills.
The £400 million redevelopment of Kettering General Hospital is the #1 investment priority for local residents. The first part of this is a £50 million new energy plant to power the expanded and improved hospital. Will my right honourable friend the Prime Minister please do all he can to ensure that the Department of Health gets spades in the ground on time next spring, so that we can get the construction of our redeveloped, much-loved local hospital fully underway.
Oh, can I thank my honourable friend for continuing to champion the new hospital in Kettering. We're absolutely committed to delivering the scheme for Kettering General Hospital, and as my honourable friend will be aware, the new energy centre is vital to the delivery of the new hospital, and we expect that work to begin in the first quarter of next year. The new hospital programme are working closely with the Trust to ensure that the plans are deliverable.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. 3 years ago, the government made a commitment to 40 new hospitals and significant upgrades to hospitals in most need. But today, many schemes are badly delayed. The Royal Berkshire, stuck at the development stage with not a single pound transferred for construction. Harrogate Hospital, still waiting on £20 million for urgent upgrades after RAC was discovered. And there are 25 more schemes, Mr. Speaker. So will the Prime Minister explain why his government is happy to let patients, doctors and nurses suffer for years in such unfit and unsafe conditions?
Mr. Speaker, we are delivering 40 hospitals by 2030. Good progress is already being made, and that programme is being backed by over £20 billion of investment. 3 schemes are already open, 2 are opening this year, and 16 are in construction or work has begun to prepare the site. It is absolutely right, though, within that we prioritise RAC hospitals as part of that. That required a reprioritisation, but that was the appropriate thing to do to ensure safety. But all patients and staff are already benefiting from some of the improvements that we've made, which comes on top of the largest capital programme for the NHS in its history, rolling out community diagnostic centres, urgent treatment centres and surgical hubs right across the country.
Sarah Dines.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As disturbed as I was to learn that British politicians are being debanked by the National Westminster Bank, you can imagine my horror to find that an entire town, Bakewell in Derbyshire Dales, is being debanked by the National Westminster Bank. And in the whole of Derbyshire Dales and the Peak District, there's not a bank left. Can you share my concern, please? Will my right honourable friend share my concern that as we are the major shareholder, that the National Westminster Bank are ignoring my vulnerable, elderly people and also my businessmen? It's a big, thriving market town.
Well, Mr. Speaker, my honourable friend is right that all customers, wherever they live, should have appropriate access to banking and cash services, which is why we've legislated to protect access to cash, and the FCA has issued guidance which seeks to ensure that branch closure decisions treat customers fairly. I know there's been an assessment about access to cash in her area, and the financial services sector will provide a new cash deposit service for her community, and also everyone can access the post office for regular banking services.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Yesterday, Cancer Research's UK manifesto, Longer, Better Lives, set out a roadmap to save 20,000 lives a year by 2040. Research is key to this, and they've identified a funding gap of over £1 billion. Cancer Research UK have told me that excluding research funded by industries, charities fund 62% of cancer research compared to the government's 38%. Is the Prime Minister ashamed of this, and what is he going to do to address this gap?
Mr. Speaker, of course the government must do more to continue preventing cancer deaths in our country. That's why we're focused on fighting cancer on all fronts: prevention, diagnosis, treatment, research and funding. Crucially, cancer is now being diagnosed at an earlier stage more often, with survival rates improving across all types of cancer, including the most common cancers. And through our treatment record, we are rolling out community diagnostic centres everywhere to ensure that we can reach those people as quickly as possible.
David Mundell.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and can I thank you on behalf of the All-Party Group on HIV/AIDS for hosting today's reception to honour the incredible contribution that Sir Elton John has made to the fight against AIDS. I very much welcome today's announcement of further funding for HIV, hepatitis B and C opt-out testing in hospital emergency departments as a critical step in fighting these diseases, and ask the Prime Minister to join with me, and indeed I'm sure the whole House, in praising Sir Elton and his AIDS Foundation for pioneering this work.
Well, Mr. Speaker, Sir Elton John has been a powerful voice for change in the UK and the world, and through the brilliant work of his foundation, he's raised awareness of HIV, reduced stigma and saved lives, and I'm very pleased that this will be celebrated tonight at the HIV All-Party Group event. And ahead of World AIDS Day on Friday, I'd also like to reaffirm this government's commitment to ending new transmissions within England by 2030. And I know my right honourable friend, the Secretary of State for Health, will have more to say about the expansion of our recent pilot initiative on screening at tonight's event.
Jones.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Pearl Melody Black was 22 months old when a car rolled off a private drive onto a highway and hit a wall that fell and killed her while she was holding her daddy's hand. The parents, my constituents Gemma and Paul, South Wales Police and the CPS were all frustrated that no charges could be brought in the case due to a loophole in the law. My 10-minute rule bill sought to amend the 1988 Road Traffic Act, but that fell as it didn't get parliamentary time. I know that colleagues across the House have similar issues, so can I ask the Prime Minister would he meet with me and my constituents to assist in finding a way forward?
I'm incredibly sorry to hear about Pearl, and my thoughts, I know the whole House's thoughts will be with Gemma and Paul. I will make sure that the honourable member gets a meeting with the relevant minister on the legislation as quickly as possible.
Nikki Aiken.
Speaker, now we know that the Labour Party has an aversion to white band man, but does the Prime Minister share my concerns that according to a Daily Telegraph report today, that Labour-run Westminster Council is increasing parking charges for electric small vehicles by up to 1,800%, demonstrating that it doesn't support small businesses nor tackling climate change.
Mr. Speaker, my honourable friend is right to raise these concerns, and it seems that Labour in London are yet again penalising hard-working people. First we had ULEZ, and now it seems they're hiking parking charges on white van drivers and small businesses, and I join my honourable friend in urging the Labour-run Westminster Council to rethink these damaging proposals.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I quote, "Rishi thinks just let people die and that's okay." This was reportedly the view of the Prime Minister of COVID during late 2020, as recorded by the then Chief Scientific Advisor in his diary. This came to light last week in the COVID inquiry, and I was shocked that Downing Street didn't categorically deny it. So could I ask the Prime Minister today, how is it that people who were closest to this issue, who he worked with day in, day out, at the top of government, how on earth did these people get the impression that the Prime Minister was okay with people in our country dying?
Minister, I think he's got the question, Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, as the honourable lady knows, there is an ongoing inquiry into COVID, and it's right that process followed, and I look forward to providing my own evidence. But if she had taken the time to actually read the evidence submitted to the inquiry, she will have seen that the person she mentioned, the Chief Science Advisor, confirmed that he did not hear me say that, and that's because I didn't.
Sir John Hayes!
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. That 1.3 million migrants over a period of 2 years is a catastrophe for Britain is obvious to everyone apart from guilt-ridden bourgeois liberals and greed-driven globalists. So given that the same kind of people are stymieing the Prime Minister's Stop the Boats campaign, will he bring urgent measures forward to deal with legal migration? And in terms of the bill that he's promised, will he ensure it is exactly in the form recommended by his own immigration minister?
Well, Mr. Speaker, I'm pleased to have the honourable gentleman's advice and support as in all our measures to tackle both legal and illegal migration. As I said, we are reviewing the recommendations of the MAC and will be bringing forward measures on top of the very significant restrictions that we've already announced on student dependence. And when it comes to stopping illegal migration, I've been crystal clear. We will bring forward legislation that makes it unequivocally the case that Rwanda is safe, and there will be no more ability of our domestic courts to block flights to Rwanda, and that's what our legislation will ensure.
Melissa McGovern.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In response to my friend for Stockton North last week, the Prime Minister claimed that the best way to stop children living in poverty is for them to have parents who work. But, Mr. Speaker, over 70% of poor children already live in a home where someone goes out to work. So I'll give him another chance. Can he explain why reports say that 1 million of our children in 2022 experienced not just poverty, but destitution?
Well, Mr. Speaker, no child should grow up in poverty, and that's why I'm pleased that because of the measures we've taken, 1.7 million fewer people are living in poverty today than in 2010. I'd also say to the Honourable Lady that it is absolutely crystal clear that for children growing up in workless households are 4 or 5 times less likely to be in poverty. That's what the facts say. That's why our efforts are on getting people into work and making sure that work pays, which is why the actions in the autumn statement to raise the national living wage to record levels and provide a significant tax cut will do an extraordinary amount to continue lifting children out of poverty.
Jeremy Wright.
Speaker, and can I thank you for welcoming my constituent John Farringdon to Parliament this morning. At 110 years of age, John is among my more experienced constituents, and I know he would want me to ask the Prime Minister to join us in thanking the staff of Covington Mill Care Home for looking after him so well. But can I also ask my right honourable friend, when John comes to Downing Street this afternoon, to try and find a moment or two to speak to him? It may be a useful conversation for those obsessed with the opinion polls, as I think it's fair to say, John...
Broadcasting worldwide, online 24/7.
All around the world.
Can I thank my right
This is Starr Radio UK.
And I very much hope I have a chance to meet John later on.
Thanks for listening.
To his care home for the incredible care that they provide.
Thanks for listening.